best practice engineering process for fleeting of cable. Fleeting is the careful management of unreeled cable and may be required where there are multiple joint boxes, a sharp change in direction where pulleys cannot be used, or where the cabling requires several sections of rodding. Some sequences in this video have been shortened or speeded up for ease of viewing. During parts of the video, barriers have been opened or removed to facilitate filming. In a live situation, full enclosed guarding must be in place. In this scenario, you can see the customer's lead-in, and then the intermediate box we need to cable through, and finally the serving joint box at the end of the street, which has also been guarded. In this situation, we cannot cable the route all in one go. It will need to be completed in two separate sections. The first thing to do is measure how much total cable we'll need to install from the customer to the CBT through any intermediate boxes along the route in a continuous length without any breaks or joins. During the measure, assess any risks from traffic or pedestrians. This measurement tells us which drum length to use. Now we use the Cobra rod from the intermediate box towards the serving CBT box. This means we can set up the cable dispenser at the CBT box and pull it back towards the intermediate box, ready for the next stage. Here you can see the Cobra rods arriving at the CBT box. If cable bearers exist, then the pulley should be clipped on as shown. In this instance, we've clipped the drop wire pulley onto the dispenser as there were no brackets or bearers in the joint box. Mark the length of the cable grip against the cable end and use the tape cabling to cover the entire length of the cable grip plus a little bit more. Now carefully insert the cable into the cable grip, working the cable down the entire grip as shown. Once complete, finish by applying the tape cable adhesive to the end of the grip to prevent the cable from pulling out. Now, using a minimum 1 metre section of draw rope, pass one of the free ends through the cable grip and begin the splice tuck. This is achieved by twisting the draw rope to create a hole and passing the free end back through the hole. You must ensure there are at least 4 tucks to ensure the rope join is effective. Finally, finish this section by taping the free end of the tuck splice and the end that meets the cable grip as shown here. At the other end of the rope, carefully separate one single strand from the rope and cut away the other 2 strands as shown here. Now pass this single strand through the bullet on the end of the Cobra rod. Similar to the other section, pass this single strand back through the rope at least 4 times to form a splice tuck in the rope. Finish by taping the free end of the rope and the section that meets the end of the Cobra rod. Here is the completed joint. For this activity we are using 2 engineers. One is pulling the rods whilst the other one is feeding, as you can see here. Continue pulling until you have the rope, which can then be disconnected from the end of the rods by simply unscrewing it. Because we cannot cable this route in one go, we need to pull through all of the cable off of the drum to this intermediate joint box. As you can see, we have laid out a canvas sheet to protect the cable and start by making sure the free end is put to one side. In this case, we have chosen to carefully coil the cable, but it can be fleeted into a figure of 8 pattern, which we'll show you next. Pull the cable through, laying each loop on top of the previous one. Now continue to pull through the remainder of the cable until it reaches the end stop on the cable drum. Finish by carefully flipping over the coil so the free end is now on top, ready for the next section. Here you see we start by placing the free end to one side. Begin by forming a loop and then forming a figure of 8 pattern, laying one cable loop on top of the other. Finish by tidying the cable loops. Now, carefully turn over the cable loops so the free end is on the top. With the customer's capping and duct bung removed, now we're rodding from the customer's premises towards the intermediate box. You can rod both sections before commencing with the cabling. In this instance, we knew both sections were clear. Here you can see we have the Cobra rod arriving from the customer's house. Remove the lead to cache rod ends flexible tip assembly and screw the bullet still attached to our draw rope so we can pull this section towards the customer. This next section requires 2 engineers, one to pull back on the Cobra rods at the customer whilst the other engineer carefully feeds the cable into the duct. Here you can see the rope and cable arriving at the customer's house. Continue to pull through all of the cable, remembering to leave a small loop of cable in the joint box. With all of the cable pulled through, replace the duct seal, capping and lead in the cable as required.